good to go. So, Kristen, want to start us off?
Sure thing. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Welcome to Connecting During COVID, an Old Masters alumni discussion. And so we just hope that everyone viewing is doing well, staying safe and healthy in these absolutely unprecedented times. First and foremost, my name is Krista Michael, and I am one half of the directing co-chair for the Old Masters 2020 program.
Yep, and my name is Teddy Circus-Cutter, and I have the honor of serving as the other half of the directing co-chair. So as you guys can all see, we have the honor of being joined on this panel by three former Old Masters, 2019 Old Masters, who have graciously volunteered to give up some of your time on this evening and jump on yet another Zoom call, which we're sure that you all enjoy, but we're definitely excited to hear everything that you guys have to offer and the stories that you have to share. So we'll just start with some super brief introductions for our three guests, then we'll provide some quick kind of updates on the Old Masters program, and then we will jump into the actual panel part of the discussion, which is what we're here for. So we'll start off with Orlando Ashford, who we are joined by. So Mr. Ashford is a renowned executive leader, author, and philanthropist. He received his bachelor's and master's degrees in organizational leadership and supervision from Purdue in 1991 and 1993. And from there, he leapt into a career in people leadership, holding executive level roles in human resources with Motorola, Coca-Cola, Marshall McLennan, and Mercer. Most recently, he served as president of Holland America Line before retiring earlier this year, and currently serves as the board director for ITC Incorporated and a strategic advisor for Advisory Cloud. And he also spends a lot of his free time, it seems, volunteering on a variety of different boards, including those of the Virginia Mason Medical Center, Europe, and the Positive Coaching Alliance. So Mr. Ashford is a Purdue Technology Distinguished Alum, published author of the book Talentism, and it seems coming up soon, How Did You Get That Job?, which all of us should look out for. And in 2017, Black Enterprise named Mr. Ashford to its list of the most powerful executives in corporate America. So thank you for joining us tonight, Orlando.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here, and anything I can do to help and share, I'm excited to do it. So this is great.
And then it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Dr. Libby Richards. Dr. Richards is an associate professor in Purdue University School of Nursing. She earned a Bachelor of Science in Nursing in 2003 from the University of St. Francis, her Master of Science in Nursing in 2006 from IUPUI, and then her PhD in Health Promotion in 2012 from Purdue University. Dr. Richards' research focuses on understanding the need of social support in promoting physical activity, and is one of Purdue University's most renowned professors and trusted voices during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Richards' online publications have a wide public reach, with a recent article in The Conversation surpassing 750,000 readers. Dr. Richards is well known for the close personal relationships and bonds she forms with her students, and was recently named a 2020 winner of Purdue's Murphy Award for Outstanding Undergraduate Teaching, the highest undergraduate teaching honor this university can bestow. She also serves as a mentor and advisor to the Nursing Student Council and Glenwood Cooperative. We are so excited to reconnect with you tonight, Libby.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be here. I'll actually never tell you guys no, so you can ask away.
Just keep asking.
We will keep on asking, then. Don't worry. And then finally, we're also honored to welcome Mr. Mark O'Hare, last but not least. So Mr. O'Hare is a two-time Emmy Award-winning American director, story artist, and cartoonist. So he attended Purdue from 1986 to 1990 before transferring to the California Institute of Arts, where he majored in animation. Mr. O'Hare is well known for his work in animated film and television shows, contributing his work as a writer and story artist to Rocko's Modern Life, SpongeBob, Dexter's Laboratory, and the Powderpuff Girls. He is head of story on Illumination Entertainment's 2018 release of Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, and also worked on Despicable Me, The Lorax, Despicable Me 2, and served as a marketing director for the Despicable Me 2 ad campaign, and co-directed the Minion short film Panic in the Mailroom, which is hilarious. Everyone should go and watch it. But he most recently served as head of story for Paramount Pictures on the third SpongeBob SquarePants movie, which will be released early in 2021, and is currently creating storyboards for the upcoming Paramount animated film Under the Boardwalk. So just a big final thank you to Mark for joining us here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. And yeah, like Libby, yeah, I will always talk to you guys, and it's really nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, we are so excited to get to reconnect with all of you this evening and so grateful that you chose to join us. And we will definitely be taking you up on some further asks since you all said that you would be willing. So that's good to know. But just a quick update on our 2020 Old Masters program for this fall. So it will be virtual this fall, and we're trying to do everything possible to allow Purdue students to still benefit from hearing, just like yourselves as former Old Masters, there's the stories and wisdom that you all have to share. And so we are connecting in different ways, but we're confident that our group this year will be able to reach more students than ever before and share wisdom at a time when many of us do need it most. And our goal for this event is to give our alumni of the program a platform on which they can share their inspirations, stories, and strategies, and how you all have been coping with COVID-19, as we just talked about, the past 6 months, which is crazy. But we're excited to be welcoming these 3 distinguished individuals and their perspectives and experiences for you all to hear this evening. And with that, we'll go ahead and kick it off with our first question for the whole group. And so the last several months have obviously given us many opportunities to think, learn, reflect, kind of invest time in ourselves when we haven't really had a lot of time in the past. And so being able to reconnect with things that we love most in this world. So I just want to turn it over to you guys and ask, what are some kind of hobbies or activities that you all have picked up since the onset of the pandemic?
Well, I have been doing better at self-care, walking a lot, which is great because I should practice what I preach. But pre-pandemic, I was often too busy maybe to get a walk in. And so I've been listening to some great books while I walk and just enjoying nature and actually time by myself as much as I can.
Fantastic. I think it's harder to get that time, when we're all kind of stuck at home with our families and stuff. So we kind of have to take advantage of it. But Mark, do you want to share kind of what you've picked up?
I've been, when it first starts, and I think a lot of people have had this experience where it feels like, there's this rush, like I could do things that there's maybe time to do stuff. So at first it was this rush to like, I'm going to catch up on the Netflix series, or I'm going to catch up, and my wife and I are watching a lot of stuff. And then it's like, we'll go for walks. And I bought a lot of books that I wanted to read. So I've been reading a lot, and that's helped a lot, feeding my brain. I look at it as like feeding yourself, taking time and feeding your soul and your mind and your body with, it's just in a smaller atmosphere. But then as it goes along, it's gotten harder. I have to admit, it's not, all of us, I'm sure, are dealing with the same kind of thing. So my wife and I have a game of gin rummy that is up to 23,000 now, and there's no one's going to win.
No one's going to win.
No one's going to win. Although she's always, I'm still beating you. I'm like, all right.
I think we can all aspire to that. That is so funny. But Orlando, would you like to share?
Yeah. So a couple things. I mean, I agree with the healthy comment. I've lost like 15 pounds just because I've just had time to go for walks and eating a little healthier, being on the run the way I used to be, and didn't invest in that. And then I've been writing a lot. I wrote an op-ed piece in the midst of the crisis in relation to my previous business. I wrote a personal op-ed piece that I posted on my LinkedIn in relation to the George Floyd death. And then I finished a book. I've been carrying a book around for years, and I told myself I'm going to use this time to finish it. And so I finished the book, and it'll be out in a couple of weeks. So I've done a lot of writing, which has allowed me to get things that I've had in my head out. And so that's been I had a boss tell me a long time ago that you don't want to waste a crisis. And so a crisis is an opportunity to find new opportunity to do things different. And so I've always held that, and you couldn't have a crisis much bigger than this one. So I wanted to make sure that, coming out of it, that there were some things that hopefully I did new and different and better. So a lot of writing.
That's fantastic. And thank you guys all for sharing those. I know I speak for Kristen, and I think we've both been reading a lot and just like taking a little bit of time. It's hard, now that we're back in school to kind of focus on ourselves, but it's certainly given us just a little extra time, even if it's 30 minutes a day to just kind of work on ourselves, and that's great. So we appreciate you guys sharing those things. Libby, we'll now turn it over to you for our first kind of targeted questions.
Okay.
So you get to kick us off, which is awesome. But so you're, as an educator, and I think you're very famous for how much that you love connecting with students and, kind of like sharing in their lives and their stories and stuff like that. And obviously that's a little bit different now, we talked right before this call about how you're still advising, but, you're teaching online. And so kind of a question is, how have you managed to stay kind of connected to students, even when, our circumstances and our lives look so different here on Purdue's campus?
That is a really great question. And at first it was very difficult, especially when I transferred from a hybrid class to all online at the end of last semester. I found that pretty tricky to connect with students. But what I've done now is spent a little more time to send individual emails to check in with students in my classes when I don't have their cell phone numbers. And I think that definitely helps, especially if I've noticed somebody who maybe hasn't logged in as many times as somebody else, but really sending a personal message so it doesn't seem that I'm checking in on everybody and I want to hear from each of my students. I also am fortunate that I have a lot of my students' numbers. And so I send them text messages. We can talk on the phone. And I've had a lot of fun doing Zooms with my students as well. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy connecting with students that way. And I feel like we've had just as effective mentoring and connections online, and maybe more so of it because it makes it a little easier than finding a time to meet somewhere in person. And I think that's really worked for us. But the most important thing I try to do is check in with, small groups or with students one-on-one.
I think that's a really good point too that you make about like how these are things that we probably wouldn't be doing as much, in a non-COVID world. Like we very likely would not be having this video call, because video calls weren't quite as, just present in our everyday lives. So I know I'm personally excited to see kind of the 2 or 3 years down the road, like the things that we keep, from this time. But
actually, and I hope that my students have this experience, but I feel like I've maybe connected a little bit more with some students because in a large classroom, I can share an announcement and say, hey, if you're having any problems, come see me. But when I reach out one-to-one to the students, either through Brightspace or whatever, I've had some really heartwarming responses that students are happy to be checked in on, and more of a response than I think I was maybe getting when I was in the classroom.
And thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you for sharing, Libby. I think it's really important, especially in these times, as things that we're used to have been evolving, just to stay connected. And I'm gonna transition here to you, Orlando. Obviously, a couple deadlines are on students' minds with internships, postgraduate opportunities. And so since you've written extensively in your book, Talentism, and about bridging the skills gap and how to improve business performance, we were just wondering if you could kind of speak to how the last few months have kind of changed or kept the same, the skills that employers are looking for, and what students can do to kind of help continue to build those skills or look out for things in the job search.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing is still consistent. At the end of the day, companies are trying to figure out how they can identify people that they can add to the mix, and that's going to create incremental value. And so that's what you want to figure out how to demonstrate. Being better or good at demonstrating energy online or via a Zoom is going to be important. So I would encourage people to, so the idea of a mock interview is different, right? So before you get dressed up, you put on your suit and you sit across from somebody, and so they can get a better sense of you and your energy because they're with you. Well, now you're trying to actually figure out how to demonstrate the impact that you're going to have on that company or that employer through this little screen. And so you want to get feedback on how you come across. You want to get feedback, little things like, how does your computer set, and how's your camera, and how is your head in the middle of the screen or not. I've done interviews where the person was literally like this the whole time and didn't realize it. Well, it's such a distraction, right? I'm not interviewing you. I'm bothered by the fact that you're sitting like this on the screen. We're all laughing, but it's true. Those types of things. How can you demonstrate your ability to be effective in an online environment? Because we're not only interviewing people, assessing people, we're hiring people and starting them in their new jobs completely virtually.
Right.
That is unheard of. We used to always, at least somewhere in there, I got to know you and connect with you. So you want to be really purposely thoughtful about how you your online or your video persona, because there's going to be a lot of value determined through your ability to demonstrate your capability online, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's important. And just a little follow up here. I remember when you were here for the old master's program, you talked about I remember every meeting as like an opportunity, like each one is a chance for you to go in and do something. And, I think it's a little harder to make that, you spoke about the presence, that you bring to the room or whatever. And it's a little harder to do that virtually. And so do you have any just kind of general advice for people on making the most of their meetings? And I think it's doubly hard now because, screen fatigue is very real. But do you have any kind of thoughts on maximizing that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you want to practice, and you want to ask people how you come across. So, we do a lot of these Zoom calls, and they tend to be, their work, their school, or their social. But do you actually practice how you come across in an interview type setting? What is it what is your strength? What is the energy that you put forward, and how do you demonstrate that? The posture, that your tone of voice, the messaging that you deliver. How can you tell a story about whatever your work experience or educational experience has been to this point, and be able to deliver that? One of the other concepts that hopefully I had mentioned before, but I talk about in my latest book, is this idea of having a personal board of directors. So who are those 4, 5, 6, 8 people that invest in you, pour into you, give you unfiltered advice, counsel, and can help you understand how you come off and things that you can do to be better. And so those are people that you want to tap into. That could be your parents, it could be your friends, it could be mentors, or some combination, to determine how well do you show up in that little screen on this computer, because that's unfortunately the vehicle through which you have to deliver your power and impress people to hopefully convince them to hire you.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing those things. It's we just had virtual industrial roundtable for our engineers 2 days ago, which was, they had 250 companies virtually, and you had a 10-minute chance, to make an impact. And so I appreciate the advice on how to kind of make the most of that.
Yeah. Well, in that, so think about that. So what's the most powerful thing that you want to get across? Either stats that you want to share, or some story that you want to tell. So you have to lead with that. In a 30 or 40 or an hour interview, you actually focus more on how you want it to end.
Yep.
But with only 10 minutes, I've got to try to get your attention really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. That's great advice. All right, so now kind of a question for Mark. So I think we are all, it's been an opportunity, I know Chris and I have talked about this a lot, to be a little bit more kind of creative during these times, and to, harness some of that creative energy that we might have had, not really made the most of before. And so I remember when you were back at the old master's program, you talked a little bit about kind of your creative process, and how you go through it, and how you just, make things happen. And so I'm curious about, kind of how that creative spark has changed for you, if you've turned to any other outlets to find kind of inspiration now that you're interacting with people less overall.
Yeah, I find that it is harder. I was already an introvert when I worked, and writing and drawing and creating can be difficult in the sense that you do spend a lot of time alone, and I don't think that's necessarily that healthy. So I think during this situation, I find myself trying to, the little things. I focus on the specific things very much in my life. Like something as simple as grocery shopping and just being out there amongst people and activity helps a lot. It makes you feel part of things and makes you feel visible. I think I enjoyed going to work as well because I fed from people, and that is really important. There's a spontaneity that happens when you're together in groups, whether it's just another person or 3 or 4, and the conversation goes places and your mood changes and it's a life that you can feel, and creativity does rely on that. I've always found that. And if it was just my wife and I, or just going to the grocery store shopping, I mean, it's whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just kind of the background helps. And that hasn't really changed with COVID. So I feel like I already had a lot of those, I recognize that that's what I need to do. So I go for bike rides. I go out and do errands. I do whatever it is that makes me feel visible to the world. There's something I feel that can be unhelpful to taking care of yourself and being, you can be disciplined. I think you can eat the right foods, or you can read books, you keep yourself, engaged, but it's also being visible to the world. And I think that's important too. And that's the hardest part I find about this.
No, I definitely Oh, go ahead, Teddy.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a lot harder to make yourself visible to the world now, and it's a little bit more of a venture, or a leap to go out and do that. So that's tough. And Kristen, I'm sorry that I interrupted you.
No, it's all. There's a. I guess the way the world is, your social world is structured, it just feels like those connections are so important, and we feed off them, and we tend to take them for granted, and then when they're not here at the level that they were, you really can feel it. So it's important to keep those things going. And what Orlando is speaking about, Zoom and video calls, it's amazing, because I would not have used video calling as much. But now that there's a friend of mine that I would normally just have spoken on the phone with or texted, I want to see him now. And that's a nice thing. I think those are nice habits that we can bring with us forward. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the intentionality in connections has definitely changed a lot, just in making time to go invest in other people in a space that's safe and kind of within people's comfortability levels. I feel like my roommates and I sometimes are like, okay, we need to get out of the house today. We've been staring at the same 4 walls or the same 4 screens, like we talked about with your little setup. So yeah, the power of connection, and kind of like you said, Mark, just making yourself visible. I don't really think you understand how much it affects you until you kind of reflect and you're like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I did need to do that today. But I will go ahead and direct a question back to you, Libby, about kind of as a student and in my life, especially too, as I'm going on rotations next year, these are big milestones that are happening in students' lives. And so starting your freshman year this year, or I'm like Teddy's graduating in December, and like those expectations of what those were going to be when we first started this journey are completely shifted. So is there any silver lining or advice that you could pass on to students so they can try to find those little things that kind of keep them going throughout these times?
Yes. So change is hard. Losing things is hard, even if it's things that you never had to start with. And so this may sound simple, but I do it, and I think it can make a big difference. So focus on what you have. Don't focus on what you don't have. Don't focus on what was taken away from you. What do you have? What do you have that's good? What do you have that you can make better? And focus on those things. So if you're a student, for example, at Purdue University, you are doing better than a majority of the world, in all honesty. And it's hard to think of it that way. But if, all of us, first of all, right now we have internet. That's internet, broadband internet, it is a luxury. So, we've got those things. We've got food, we've got shelter, we've got, for the most part, our health. So I think it's really important to just enjoy the moment, because there's no guarantee of what the next moment's going to be.
Yeah,
not what you have.
I buy that in a big way. And then the thing I'd add on just on top of that is, then again, it gets back to that. How do you not waste this crisis? So you're forced to learn how to engage different. Mark was just talking about that. You're learning how to use technology in ways. I'm getting to spend time with family in ways. My oldest son was forced home from college, as many of you were last year. And so we were all at home again. And it's like, I said, this is probably the last time in our lives we'll be home like this, having dinner together and stuff. You're about to, graduate from college soon, and my younger one will be gone. So it, kind of sucks while we're here, but we're here. So let's leverage that and enjoy it for the time that we have. And then there'll be some point in time, hopefully we'll laugh about this period and think about those things that we got from it. So I agree with that completely.
I know before Chris and I kind of started in this role, I guess we thought a lot about like kind of how we wanted to go about this. And I think like gratitude was a huge part, and just like being kind of like you mentioned, like just being grateful for what we do have. Because I know I've seen a lot of images of like, people with young children who, might not have as much and are spending so much of their money to get internet so their children can do e-learning,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know, it really is like, we're fortunate, I think, to be able to kind of sit here and be able to do this, and I know I'm at least grateful to be able to have my last semester at Purdue be, at least somewhat in person, I think that's a good silver lining. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay, so now just transitioning to a question for Orlando. So we talked about this a little bit in the green room before this call, but you mentioned that you had traveled just somewhere just about every week for 25 years, and I quote, I think. So you were always on the road. You were, I don't know, just seeing all these different places in the world, and I'm sure that went kind of hand in hand with your last job. So have you kind of like had anything that has kind of scratched that travel itch for you, like anything that has kind of been able to kind of fill that void for you?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been very busy, just in a very different way, right? Yep. So, and in some ways, it's actually been more efficient, right? So I'm doing advisory work. I'm a strategic advisor with a private equity firm, and so I'm reviewing companies and deals and opportunities, and so I'm pulling from the experiences that I've had. So imagine if you're looking at buying a company and they've got operations in the Middle East, or they've got operations in Europe, and I've worked in those parts of the world. So I'm tapping into those experiences, but I'm doing it in a different way. 6 months ago, my inclination is to, let's go over there. I get on the plane and we go over and do our work. Well, now we're figuring out how to make similar decisions, but doing it virtually. So it's different. But I'm as busy, or in some ways more busy, because I'm doing those things. I'm doing some of the philanthropic stuff that I've always done. I wrote a book, spending time with my family, and then using these vehicles to connect with Purdue and connect with friends and things like that. And so I'm still moving at a similar pace, but just in a very different way. It will never replace travel. I mean, as soon as we're able to start going places, I'm sure I'll go. Probably not at the same volume that I did, because I actually have a better appreciation for being home and being still, which I probably did not really appreciate the way I should have the last 25 years. So that's been a forced learning for me. Yeah. So I miss travel. I want to get back to that, but I will not travel at the same volume that I did pre-COVID, for sure.
No, and I think that little nugget that you said, be still, I think that goes into so many different facets of our life right now. So that definitely resonates with me. I think just in anything, like that opportunity to just sit and just be for a little bit, depending upon what kind of things you're bringing along with you. I think that's so important. So thank you for sharing that, Orlando.
No problem.
And then transitioning just to you, Mark. So entertainment is obviously a huge part of our lives in some form or fashion. And right now it's kind of the way that we all connect in terms of being able to see different platforms and social media and all those things. And it's become incredibly apparent that we all need some sort of escape kind of during these times to kind of get out of the harsh reality of our world at sometimes. And so just what are some of your favorite methods? I know you mentioned gin rummy with the wife, and that's been an ongoing thing. But what are some of your favorite methods to kind of take care of yourself and kind of escape, if you will, during these times?
For me, it's always like feeding myself mentally. For creativity, it's always I like to read books. Try to catch up on books because it does help. And I enjoy watching Netflix and a lot of series and whatnot. So I think for what I do have to constantly feed myself with other things that aren't necessarily entertainment. So and this often happens when you're working in Hollywood and entertainment, is that you're working so much that you really stop knowing what to write about anymore because your whole life is about the work, and you don't stop to live your life. So when you work on shows and films, that you are looking for the ones that give you that family time, and that because it does have to come from somewhere. It can't just come from the job. So that I find that I'm enjoying that creatively right now in terms of the stillness and thinking about and creating around. And even in the way I work, and I still do work for animation, it ends up in the work, but it's, all of character work that we do is specific. It's very, very specific and small. And that's what I think what people love about it. And you can't write about those small things unless you stop and watch them and let them happen and be engaged with those little things. Because then everybody else knows, oh yeah, that happened to me. I know what you're talking about. So, and if you're going too fast, the writing becomes more about general things and bigger things that might not, it missing some human element about it. So that's kind of that's what my relationship with entertainment has been since the beginning, and it still continues to be. I do admit it is harder right now, but I'm happy to be still contributing.
Okay. So Mark, I'm curious. I love books. It's a goal of mine at some point in my life to open a bookstore. Do you have any favorite books that you've read, kind of since COVID began? Or
oh gosh, well, I've read. My son got me a beautiful book. I finally sat down and read it about George Washington, a biography. It's wonderful. I'm in the midst of that one right now. And I've read, I finally read one, Hannah Arendt is one of my favorite philosophers, and she wrote Human Condition. I really enjoyed that one. So I've been reading a lot of philosophy books and just more like deep thinking, but yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing. Definitely be sure to look into those. I don't know. I think it's been a great.
There's one more. It was really funny. It was the last book I read, and it was on a plane, and it was by Richard Ayoade, who's the comedian, the British comedian, and he wrote something called View from the Top, Ayoade from the Top, A View from the Top, and it's the best story about one of the worst movies you could ever see. And the first thing I did during COVID was watch this movie, and it was, oh my gosh, it was amazing. But this book was wonderful.
Amazing in a bad way, or what was he right about how bad the movie was?
He's writing about his life, but also in tune to this movie that he keeps watching. He doesn't know why, and it's so bad. And it's with Gwyneth Paltrow that she made in like the early 2000s, and it's like it's called View from the Top, the movie. If you want to watch it, oh my gosh. It's bad for some strange reasons, but if you can't look away, you're like, wow.
Hey, I have got to plug 2 good books. This is the time to do it.
Yes.
My Own Words is about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it's a great audiobook because they take clips of all of the speeches that she's given, and also things that other people have said about her, and her husband shares his stories, and it's fantastic. And The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates is about how to empower other people, no matter what you have yourself. And it's also an audiobook. I don't actually read real books because I can be productive. I can like walk and listen to a book and then I feel super productive. So 2 great audiobooks. Anything that's read by the author, I think is fantastic.
Thanks for sharing. Teddy and I, like Teddy mentioned, we're big readers. So we've actually read 2 books during quarantine. We've read Being Mortal and then Daring Greatly. So, I guess Teddy has decided to hop off.
You're in charge now, Kristen.
I guess so. But no, so we've been reading books too. So that's awesome that you guys have any recommendations.
Being Mortal is super good.
It's a fabulous read. It definitely is hard, but it is a perspective that I truly appreciated getting to just kind of listen and internalize, if you will. But Orlando, do you have any books that you would suggest?
Honestly, I've been writing my own, so I haven't read a book in a little while. I've been, the process of writing a book, this is my second one. This one was a little more personal than the first one, and so it's just it's a pretty intense process because writing it and then reviewing it and then reading it and then seeing how the stories that you're sharing, how you think they're going to fall on other people. So I'm actually looking forward to getting back to reading books once mine is out, because I probably won't be able to read it myself. It'll be weird once it's out. So yeah.
I know. Thank you for sharing that too. We're super excited about how did you get that job? I'm really excited. So yes, keep us in the loop for when it actually hits the shelves.
Yep, I'll send you a note. I'll send you a note. Be a couple
Awesome. And then, it looks like Teddy's made it back on. But we actually have some questions from our audience. So I will go ahead and we have a question that says, all of you have such different professions, but the similar quality of your level of success. And his question is, during your time at Purdue, what traits did you learn that put you on these paths? So I will open the floor, and whoever wants to speak to that first, about what you learned at Purdue that has carried with you.
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, I grew up in New Jersey. I went to Purdue, which is, was very different culturally and socially than where I grew up. So I learned a lot academically. As we all know, Purdue is an awesome school, but what I learned the most was around people and how do you connect with different types of people with different backgrounds, whether they grew up in the city or in a rural environment, and different political views and all of those things. And so learning how to navigate a large university like Purdue and get along with so many different types of people to deliver value, that's what you end up doing for your whole life. Whether you start a business or you join a business, you're really trying to figure out how to galvanize people, tap into people, work with people, and deliver some outcomes that allow you to be successful. And so I got a really heavy dose of how to do that at Purdue, which I've been using for years and years and years since then.
I would say the same thing. Purdue in its core is collaborative and innovative, and none of us would ever be old masters if we didn't collaborate with other people. And I think Purdue gives you the tools to seek out other people who are different than you and bring what you bring best to the table and what other people bring best as well. So I think working with others and learning from others is key.
Yeah.
For myself, it was the fantastic teachers, and I think that the fact that it was the level of academics is so good and so open-minded, and again, the diversity of thought going on. And I had the opportunity to go to engineering school, but also have some amazing art classes, and that was something that would not have happened to me at a smaller school. I think the size, although intimidating, I think was really, at the end of the day, I really appreciate it because I was able to find my niche, because there are so many places, to find.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys sharing that. Our next question is kind of geared a little bit more towards the actual master's program, and we hope that you guys don't mind speaking on that. So we had one of our viewers ask, so since a year has passed since you guys went through the old master's program, did you learn anything different about yourself or or about Purdue after kind of reflecting on your time in the program? And I would say just super briefly that all of your hosts are still involved in central committee. I believe each of you has at least one host. Mark, you set the record with 3, which is pretty impressive. So you did something right while you were back. But each of you has at least one host that is still represented on our central committee. So I just wanted to plug that.
I just gotta say that, like, I came out of it going, I gotta up my game because I'm gonna be replaced by really smart people. So everybody I'm like, you guys, just so inspiring. I just came away with so much a feeling, such a good feeling about your generation and kids going in school right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I when I was at Purdue, I was so focused on getting out. I was trying to get my degree and get a job. I had, I had financial pressure, all that sort of stuff. And so the old master's program really allowed me to reconnect with the university. I shared some of that in some of my remarks when we were all together. And so I've always been proud of my Purdue degree, but I don't think when I was there, I really invested in the connection with the university the way I wish I had. And so this, the old master's program gave me a chance to have that reconnection and to do that with my family there. I mean, so, my youngest son, he's a freshman in high school, but all he wears is Purdue gear. And, I'm like, dude, you got to wear some of your high school gear first. And then we'll work that out. But he was so impressed with my hosts, with the program, with the school. So he developed an affinity and a connection, before he's even gotten in. It's pretty funny. But that was big for me. I got that from the program.
I mean, I've taught at Purdue now. This is my 15th year, and I've been a nurse in a variety of settings, and I've always said that this is my best job ever, and I'm not going anywhere unless I get canned. But then also, I live in West Lafayette, so I'll still show up. But it gave me a renewed perspective about how lucky I am that my job is to interact with you guys. Like, I don't even have words for it. That is my job. I'm lucky. That's it.
Well, we love to hear those things, and we appreciate you guys sharing them. I think that as much as you guys say that your hosts changed you and stuff, I don't know. I know the stories and the advice and everything that you guys left us with really made a difference. And it was, I don't know, it's just so fun to be able to like reconnect in this space where you guys you know each other, and it's like that's you probably never would have met if it weren't for the program. And I think that's just so powerful. It's. And even though we're in some different times now, like still being able to connect, I think is really important.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Because and all the young people that we met were so impressive. The school and seeing how the school's evolved is so impressive. But meeting the other old masters, I didn't mention that, but folks represented on this call, but the whole group. I was just so in awe with everybody that. And so you start saying, well, am I good enough to be here? Because everyone was really talented and super impressive in their own right. And so it was an honor to be a part of that.
And I think we just thank you for continuing. You poured obviously into us as students, but for pouring into each other as like a group of the old masters for 2019. That experience and watching that all unfold and your guys' dynamic, I think was just so touching because we all share that Purdue connection, but we've done so many different things with that Purdue being a part of our lives that it's just, this program just is so awesome to see it all kind of come together. And like you said, Orlando, just be able to connect with one another as students and then each other.
Cool. True.
Cool. Well, I think that we can probably ask kind of our closing out question for you guys here. We have one last question, and this is kind of how we framed this event, I suppose. And so we would just ask you guys, what, having reflected, on everything that we've been through over the last 6 months, and, Orlando is rattling off, we have, he's in Seattle, and so he's dealing with the fire now, got all kinds of things going on. But what is one key kind of lesson that you guys have, taken away from this? If you had to sum up, what you've learned in the last 6 months or so, what would that be? And what would you tell, students who are entering kind of a difficult part of their lives? What's one lesson to take away?
I would say that this is a great, I'm a professor. This is a great learning experience. In life, there is very few certainties and lots of challenges. So what we're experiencing right now, we're navigating crazy tough times, but there's no guarantee that we're not going to have crazy tough times in 5 years or in 10 years. And you're young, like bad stuff is going to happen. And this is our opportunity to learn from it and to make this experience better and to focus on what's in our control. You can keep yourselves healthy by social distancing, wearing a mask, keeping your hands clean. You can keep your community healthy by doing those very same things. And so even though this is a completely nutty time, there is stuff in our control, and there is good that we can do during this.
I think that's so important, Libby. Thank you for sharing that. It's like, I think it's very anxiety inducing, for all of us to, get out of bed every day and go about our normal lives, but just have to kind of focus on those range of things that we can control. And that's something that I've definitely been telling myself for the last few months. So I appreciate you sharing that.
I guess I would say is, I feel like we all know that we have all known how fast we are used to living, how speed and how efficiency and speed and just that level of activity that, if you're a Purdue student, right? So there's a lot going on, and that's a good thing, but it is very confusing to go through, I think, a time where speed isn't the issue. And I think it makes us realize that speed for speed's sake is not that's the question we need to ask ourselves. And I feel like that's, for myself, learning, how to feed myself, take care of myself, feed myself and my physically and emotionally and spiritually, and take that time, but don't be too hard on yourself, because it is I have to remind myself that this is hard. We all struggle with it too. And it is easy to get in that feeling that I'm not doing enough, or, I'm doing something wrong in dealing with this. And it just take a breath and take care of yourself and don't be too hard on yourself, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. Just feeding yourself, and it's okay to sit in those emotions, but don't let it get the better of you. I think that's super, super important, and definitely not to get bogged down in, oh, I'm not doing enough, I have to do this because I'm in this position, blah, blah, blah. But actually just taking time to be like, okay, I can be not okay for a little bit, and then I'm just going to move forward. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Mark. I appreciate that.
I guess it's my turn. So I'll share 3 quick concepts. So one, I think it's important to remember that this too shall resolve. If you think back to the craziest thing that's happened or has happened in your life, and at that moment you thought, oh, this is horrible, I'll never get through this, but you do. And so it resolves. And so I've had to remind myself a few extra times, given the volume of stuff, but the fires will resolve. This COVID pandemic will resolve. These other challenges will resolve. And so you need to kind of understand that. And in my experience, challenges create opportunities. So you don't want to waste a crisis. So What are you going to do different? What are you going to take advantage of, whether it's time with family, with friends, writing a book, whatever that thing is that you hadn't been doing that you now want to do. And I do think we talked about this already. So allowing yourself the freedom to be still a little bit and let some of that sort out for you. And then my last piece of advice is that those in this world moving forward that are the most learning agile are the ones that are going to win and be successful. We are moving in a world dynamic that is going to move and change and things like that. And so those that can adapt are the ones that are going to be successful and win. If you get too locked into one model, one way to do business, one way to think, I think you'll struggle because the world is going to continue to pivot and adapt. And so you want to condition yourself to be learning agile, assess a situation, make a decision, execute against that decision. And then if things change, be willing to assess or reassess and then pivot. And those would be my parting thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's been such a tremendous lesson, like you said, in how to be flexible and how to be dynamic and how to just take what the world or whatever your current situation is giving you and just deal with it, in different ways. And, to find the good in it and find kind of that which you can control in it. So I think that's really, really powerful. And again, appreciate you sharing that.
Of course.
But yes, thank you all. This was such a fruitful conversation. I gained so much from just reconnecting with you all and hearing how you guys have all been doing and how your families are through this crazy time. And Orlando, going back to what you said, my dad always tells me this, but this too shall pass. So it's just another something on the radar, but it's just maybe an infinite time as of right now. We don't have an end date, but that's okay. We're going to go with it.
Right.
But we'd obviously love to continue this conversation, talk to you guys all night, but we want to be respectful of your time. So we just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us tonight. I mean, Teddy and I have been looking forward to this, and this has been a highlight in a crazy week. So thank you guys so much. Your insights were just truly profound as always, and we're just so grateful that this program allowed us to cross paths with you. And Teddy, I'll turn it over to you for some closing remarks.
So just kind of a couple last plugs here is that, we're doing everything we can to kind of extend the reach of our Old Masters program, and we'll probably continue with some interactions like these at different points. So we will keep you guys posted. For potential hosts out there who are watching, just keep in mind that our deadline for host applications is this Friday at 11:59. You have the opportunity to meet and connect with more incredible people like these three that we are so fortunate to have here with us tonight. But we're really, really grateful for you guys and grateful for you being willing to just continue giving to students, and us, I guess, during this time. And just, I suppose, a few things to plug on your guys' behalf. So Orlando, as he mentioned, will have a book coming out in a couple weeks called How Did You Get That Job? Definitely look out for that. Look out for Talentism, which is another book. Mark, I believe the SpongeBob SquarePants 3 movie will be coming out at some point in early 2021, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, probably the Viacom CBS All Access app when they launch it in February. Okay. I think. Yeah.
Okay, so a little ways off, but still within reach for us. And I know that all of us at Old Masters will be watching that. Probably as a movie night or something fun like that. But we will, a virtual movie night, but we will look out for that. And then finally, Libby has been putting out some absolutely amazing articles in The Conversation. As we mentioned, I believe one of them reached over 750,000 clicks or views about how the flu vaccine will not actually give you the flu, which is amazing.
This is flu season time, people, so get your shots.
Yep. Very, very important reminder. And just I guess all Purdue students out there, keep protecting Purdue, keep being about everything that this university is about. And thank you for joining us tonight. So a big final thank you to you guys. Kristen, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say.
No, just that the program goes beyond those 3 days, and we'll see where this program goes beyond the virtual connection. But just thank you all so much, and we just hope that you guys continue to stay safe and healthy and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you so much.
Yay, that's right.
Thank you, Orlando. You're favorite. Mark, did I see your hands? There
Keep
you
it
go.
in the square.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
All right.
Bye.